An enlightening experience. Based on real events in the life and times of Tommie. The year is 1980. Tommie lives in a small town in the middle of the Free State province, where the pace of life is so slow that even the snails have signed a petition for faster transit. The community is tight-knit, probably because everyone knows exactly what everyone else is up to. There are no secrets in a town that small. Tommie is your classic average kid, blending in like a chameleon at a paint factory. With his blonde hair, blue eyes, and a sprinkle of freckles on his cheeks, he looks like he just walked off a cereal box. But don't let that innocent smile fool you. This kid has a mischievous nature that's landed him in more sticky situations than a jar of honey in a beehive. Always busy with some bright idea or quirky project to make a quick buck, you might say he's the town's unofficial entrepreneur, though his business licenses are more imaginary than real. He is an average athlete, but in his own mind, he's a superstar. On those incredibly rare occasions when he does venture into the reality of his life, he reluctantly admits that his older brother is light years ahead of him in the athletics department. But that doesn't faze Tommie one bit. He's got a treasure trove of knowledge that his brother wouldn't even begin to fathom, firmly placing him on the throne as the family genius. His brother, being a whole 6 years older, is already grinding away at the local panel beaters, and when he's not working, he's out chasing girls, an activity that Tommie finds downright ridiculous. Yet, no matter how you slice it, his brother's flirtatious escapades have inadvertently created a bustling economy for Tommie. One day, while conducting a highly scientific investigation, searching for a dropped resistor, he lifts up the mattress in his brother's room and stumbles upon a treasure, a whole bag filled with condoms. Now, that bag was massive, big enough to kickstart an economy right in his backyard. Tommie's mind began to race with entrepreneurial ideas. He had heard older boys discussing the wonders of such items, but they have always been too embarrassed to make a visit to the local clinic. Now, with this unexpected goldmine in hand, he quickly became the town's new favorite distributor, selling each condom for a few shiny pennies. Tommie raked in a hefty profit, and the older boys were thrilled until, of course, his mother made a shocking discovery. Tommie was meticulous about cleaning his pockets before laundry day, but somehow, the stars aligned to make him forget that fateful afternoon. His mom stormed into the dining room, eyes blazing, clutching the incriminating item like a lifeguard spotting a drowning fish. "What is this?" she bellowed, holding it up as if it were a grotesque alien artifact. "You tell me, Tommie, what is this?" At that moment, Tommie's brain hit the panic button, leaving him staring wide-eyed at his mom, mouth flapping open and shut like a fish out of water, a true master of the no-words technique. Eventually, he managed to squeak out, "It's a condom, Mom." "And why do you have it?" His mom's gaze could have melted steel. If looks could kill, Tommie would have been a goner. Realizing he was a terrible liar, he opted for honesty. "I'm selling it to the older boys." Her intense stare could have curdled milk. In a flash, she made him round up his entire stash of economy goods, and Tommie never saw them again. Lesson learned: sometimes, it pays to keep your treasures under wraps. However, on this fateful day, Tommie found himself tucked away in his secret lair, his room, which was conveniently part of the garage. Tommie has a penchant for tinkering, especially with old electronics. Recently, he ventured into a local repair shop, attempting to charm the owner into parting with some of those juicy electronic treasures gathering dust on the shelves. After a little negotiating and a not-so-expected afternoon of elbow grease, Tommie struck gold, or at least bronze, and snagged an ancient Sony hi-fi system. The owner warned him it was about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. However, a few components still had some life left, and Tommie couldn't resist bringing home this behemoth along with its speakers that could almost double as furniture. As he dragged this colossal treasure back to his humble abode, his mind raced with dreams of orchestrating a sound so thunderous it could wake the entire town. Yes, Tommie had a big plan. His older brother, Nicky, had generously gifted him a car radio which, let's be honest, was about as loud as a whisper from a shy ghost. With Nicky's expert help, Tommie managed to connect it to an electrical outlet, but it still felt like a toddler's toy compared to what he envisioned. He was convinced he could unleash a sound worthy of a rock concert with that hi-fi system. That was certainly going to turn the volume up to 11. Tommie's room was about 5 meters away from his parents' bedroom, and luckily for them, there were 2 walls in between. If Tommie had his way, they'd soon be calling for 5 walls to keep the noise down. The great advantage for Tommie was that his parents never seemed to notice where he was. He could come and go as he pleased, which meant he was living the ultimate dream, freedom with a capital F. However, Tommie's room was only about 4 x 4 which was barely enough space for all his grand plans and gadgets. The walls were roughly plastered, and he had just recently acquired a ceiling that was, shall we say, cozy. While it wasn't exactly low, at about 2.3 high, it was definitely a head bumper for anyone over the age of 10. Tommie had a few friends. His best one lived on a farm about 3 kilometers out of town, while another friend resided just 2 houses down from him. That friend, Ian, was quite the tall one, about a head taller than Tommie. We affectionately called him Duracell, but don't let him hear you say it. He's a bit touchy about his flashy red hair and might just channel his inner ninja if you call him that to his face. So, we stick to calling him Duracell when he's not around, safety first, folks. Anyway, Tommie was ready to start fiddling with his newly acquired treasure, a hi-fi system. He placed it as close to the car radio as possible, plotting to unite the two devices in a glorious auditory marriage. But there was a hitch in his musical plans. Tommie needed power for the hi-fi, which meant he needed to connect it to the car radio. Unfortunately, his stash of electrical wire resembled that of a minimalist's, completely empty. After embarking on what felt like a treasure hunt through his brother's cupboard, he triumphantly unearthed some electrical wire. "Well, I just borrowed it for a while," he reassured himself, not his brother, of course. Next, he tied a knot in the wire, because who doesn't want a little DIY drama? He deftly connected the ends to the power cable of the hi-fi system, which lay innocently in front of the open door with that delightful accident waiting to happen vibe. But to Tommie, it was less of a hazard and more of a genius way to bring electric vibes to his musical jam session. Tommie pressed the power button on the hi-fi and shouted excitedly, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have power." Fantastic. Step 1 completed. He quickly switched off the hi-fi and began to open the back casing, eager to dive deeper into his electrical escapade. Just then, Ian walked into the room, blissfully unaware, and stepped right onto the open wires, barefoot, no less. Back in those days, shoes were optional, and safety was merely a suggestion. There was a shout, a really loud one, mind you, followed by an unmistakable crash that echoed like a shattered dream, and then an eruption of cursing that would make a sailor blush. Tommie glanced at Ian, who was turning an impressive shade of red, mixed with a hint of white, or maybe that was just the glow of realization. Then Tommie's gaze drifted up to the newly created skylight in the ceiling, courtesy of Ian's head. So that's where the white sheen came from, Tommie thought. Ian, now intently examining the wires as if they had personally offended him, was met with Tommie's stifled laughter. With every curse Ian shot towards the wires, Tommie's giggles grew louder. "Now we know how to get you to jump really high next week in the high jump competition," he finally managed between fits of laughter. Man, that was an epic jump. Ian, though not exactly amused, shot Tommie a look that could kill. "What the hell, are you freaking mad? You can't leave wires open like that." With a dramatic turn, he stormed out, throwing a parting shot over his shoulder, "You're a crazy bastard." Tommie sat there, still chuckling as he surveyed the hole in the ceiling. How the hell am I going to explain this to Dad, he wondered, knowing full well that the image of Ian's face would be forever etched in his memory, a blend of fury, shock, and maybe a little admiration for his own acrobatics.